Seems to me that a lot of this debate and argument centers around whether or not the baby is a person or a fetus, and I recognize that many on the other side of the aisle refuse to recognize the baby as a baby, refuse to recognize it's a person, it's humanity. Ms. Stuckey, there have been a lot of medical advances, certainly over the last several decades. Can you tell us about some specific scientific evidence supporting the personhood, the humanity of the baby, and the viability?
Well, embryology tells us, thank you for your question. First of all, embryology tells us that the child from the moment of conception has a separate DNA. And so when we hear these euphemisms thrown around, like my body, my choice, immediately obscuring the life of the child, it shows me that the pro-abortion argument doesn't deal with fact, it deals with feeling, which is exactly why we've had such a hard time getting any kind of clear answer from any of the panelists of what abortion actually is. What does it do? Because talking about tearing a child apart limb by limb with forceps just isn't a very good PR strategy for Planned Parenthood or the abortion industry. All I'm trying to do is to remind us when we're having this conversation that there are two people. There are two people. And I don't believe that we have to pit a mother against her child in order for a woman to be successful. We talked about, legislative solutions and showing compassion for children after they're born. I absolutely believe in that. Every pro-life pregnancy center that I've ever been a part of, that I've ever donated to, they don't just counsel women. They also offering parenting classes. They are also offering help from abusive situations. They are offering programs for these young women to be able to get affordable baby clothes and baby products and things like that. And so every pro-life organization I know cares about children in the womb after they're born and the mother who is pregnant with these children. That is what I am trying to argue, that let's not ignore the scientific reality that a baby is a baby and therefore, in my opinion, is deserving of the right to life.
And the way this is even going beyond abortion in the womb, as we all were horrified, many of us, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, in his description of however it could possibly be described as a post-birth abortion, one of the most horrifying things I've ever heard in my life, where the baby would just sit there on the table and we would decide what to do with it. How do you respond to this?
Yes, that's a great point that you bring up. Unfortunately, this has been a reality in other places across the country. We like to act like this is not a thing. The CDC itself says that over a span of 11 years, at least 143 of babies were born alive and then not resuscitated, or born alive and not attended to and cared for. Only 6 states actually require this kind of reporting, so the number of 143 is probably a lot higher than that. So what we see that this is not just a degradation of children inside the womb, it's a degradation of babies in general. It's a degradation of life based on whether or not this child is wanted by the mother. And again, I ask, in what other context, in what other stage of life do we decide that someone gets to die simply because they're not wanted? And not to provoke a slippery slope fallacy, but truly what we've seen from Governor Northam's statements and from other statements that we have heard is that it truly is a slope. There is a logical and a moral slope to this, and it seems like the pro-abortion side is sliding down very quickly.
Well, and to that point, and I think it is likewise an excellent point, you brought forth a while ago Planned Parenthood's own study that the majority of women have abortions not because of their own personal health, but because of convenience sake, whether it be a job or whatever it may be. How does those findings from Planned Parenthood itself undermine the narrative, particularly about late-term abortions, that it has something to do with the health of the mother?
Yes, and we can have conversations about the health of the mother in those very rare circumstances, but as you mentioned, and as Planned Parenthood has noted, the vast majority of cases are for any reason whatsoever, including just not wanting a child, it not being convenient, wanting to finish school. And if the pro-abortion side were honest, they are completely fine with that. They are completely open to the normalization. There are organizations now that exist to normalize abortion, to destigmatize stigmatize abortion. That means that they believe abortion to be not only normal, but good. Actually, we heard the doctor say that she believes that abortion is good. And so if you believe that abortion is morally good, of course you don't think it should be limited to the life of the mother or any of those very rare circumstances. It is all 9 months, on demand, without apology. That is the new motto of the pro-abortion side.
And the fact is, the baby is a person. And for that reason, how could it be moral to kill it?
I don't know what else it is if it's not a person.
Thank you. I yield back.